Many thanks again for rejoining us on the program TMI this lovely Wednesday morning. Let's get our conversation on course, beginning with the Supreme Court decision on the Rivers State crisis. Of course, you know there's been a tug of war, a war of words, and it borders on constitution and legality between the Fubara, who is the governor, as well as the House of Assembly. For some analysts, Fubara has been piloting the affairs of the state with 4 legislators because some other legislators who are loyal to former governor Nyesom Wike were alleged to have left the party. But the Supreme Court has given a ruling on that matter, which for some analysts is clearly in favor of the pro-Wike legislators. So Fubara has come out to say now he will comply with the ruling stricto sensu. I mean, the legal icons have a way of explaining all of that. I want to welcome very specially Barrister Abraham Ovawe, civil society activist and constitutional lawyer. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good morning, listeners and viewers at home.
We'll also be expecting the Executive Director of Freedom of Information Council, Barrister President Agbohan, to join us from Abuja in just a moment. But let's get the conversation started. Well, this is, I said, while taking the paper's headlines, I said something that has to do with, why is it that when there is a crisis, we forget the negotiating table to discuss the issues, resolve the issues, but will allow individual differences to fester for a while, and then damages would have been done, costs would have been incurred. In some cases, some deaths would have resulted from that crisis. And then we come back to the negotiating table to now have a discussion to resolve the issues finally. You're a lawyer. Why is this always, part of our societal development?
I have been quite consistent on this trajectory over the years. That one of the biggest challenges Nigeria has had to confront himself with is that rather than building strong institutions, we build strong men. And when there's a battle between the strong, you agree that even the institutions will have no choice not only to bow in some extent, but the people who are the overall beneficiaries of leadership and governance will ordinarily suffer. It's a function of greed. And if you look at all political battles across the nation, it's about who takes charge of the helms of affair in terms of who controls the political will, who controls the finances. This have always been the issue. And when that becomes the issue, people put other very important issues behind. They are concerned on how they take full control. It doesn't matter if the state itself collapses, but as long as they want to prove to themselves pride, their ego, and they want to hold on to control of power where they will determine who breathes if men were God. That has been the very big issue that Nigeria will continue to contend with. That's why we will continue to advocate that we must strive to ensure there are strong institutions. No matter how strong you are as an individual, the institutions must be bigger than you, and we must be patriotic. Patriotism plays a huge role. All political crises you see everywhere, the people are the biggest losers, because they fight this battle at the behest of the financial strength of the country and the state. They tap from the wealth of the state to fight this battle, not their individual finances. Whereas, and if the issue that people have argued that there is too much money attached to political offices and political power, and when they have full control of these finances without the presence of the institutions which ought to direct their part, you continue to have this crisis year in, year out. And the implication is that the people will continue to be at the receiving end. Governance and leadership will naturally suffer, because rather than focus and steer the ship of state to a direction towards prosperity, they are not thinking of how to cut corners, involve in scheming, and find a way to break down your political opponent. It doesn't matter if the state, in the course of that, governors suffer. They are concerned about holding on to power and ensure that they control the finances of the state. And that's not too good for Nigeria. It has continued to roll around consistently year in, year out. Political power, and control of the resources of the people. That has been the issue of this crisis. I think we must redirect our path towards patriotism. We must redirect our path towards ensuring we are enthroned in an egalitarian society where the state and the leadership and the people are put in perspective before taking decisions as to involve in battles, political battles ordinarily.
Okay, let's talk about the Supreme Court judgment on the crisis festering in Rivers State. Has that put paid to the crisis, looking at the content of that judgment, as it were?
What you realize, that certainly cannot put paid to the crisis, because, and if you allow me to say, it is even the beginning of the crisis. Just to say that we had 27 lawmakers, section 109 1G is clear as to if a lawmaker, he loses his seat if he defers to another political party against the one that brought him into power. There is the aspect of those in Rivers State who are saying that that particular issue, whether their seat has been declared vacant, is still pending. And again, if you ask me, the 27 lawmakers have been at home. They have argued that they have been precluded from performing their constitutional duty, and that in itself, using the instrument of state to fight them such that they no longer have where the constitution has seen the governor at that time, all in a bid to scheme himself and to hold firm to power, had to take bulldozers in an attempt to bring down the assembly complex and raise the issue that there were structural defects, so as to ensure that 27 lawmakers do not have a befitting place to govern and play their role, on the grounds that their seats indeed have been declared vacant. That battle lingered from the Court of First Instance to the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court in itself, it got there. Now they are back. Rather than think and find a common ground to ensure that they drive governance in a manner that will suit the people, it's a fresh round of crisis. I'm told now that they have given the governor Ultimatum to represent his budget. You hear Ultimatum here and there, and at the end of the Ultimatum, what happens? They identify the issues. That he has acted in a manner that abuses the office which the people of Rivers gave to him. And that again starts a first step towards leading the path towards impeaching him. And again, just to tell you, rather than think that judgment has put paid to the crisis in Rivers, that judgment is the beginning of another round of crisis, because it has been patterns. What you have had in the past, even before this judgment, is that the governor had found a way. Few lawmakers, 3 or 4 of them, had been the bane of how will a country or a state, how will a state survive with having 3 lawmakers or 4. Other constituencies, we saw that in Edo, and we condemned it in its root, stem, and branches. That governor succeeded. He was able to push that at the end of his tenure. He survived. If Fubara is going to survive this crisis, it's another issue, because again, there are so many odds against Fubara. I am not a politician, but I feel that if you enjoy the options of support from politicians, if you enjoy their assets, their political goodwill, you must also be ready. You must also be ready to carry their burdens and liabilities too. If you want to enjoy only the assets with which this project brought to the table to bring you into power, you cannot run away from the liability. That is speaking strictly sensu. But on the other way around, from morality perspective, can a man open his eyes and will be giving support by strong individuals? Don't forget, we had argued that having strong institutions will continue to be the best to drive an egalitarian society. And now, have you enjoyed the support of your predecessor in office, and you got there? There are liabilities attached to those supports. There are consequences attached to those supports. Now you are confronted with them. You are argued. We only heard from you that you can no longer continue that respect. I feel, if you ask me, the coming days in Rivers is going to be a torturous experience for the people of Rivers. The 27 lawmakers may not be willing to budge because I haven't been at home. And there have been one band that have survived them all through this period. Now that they are back, they don't have, according to them, they feel they have the yam and the knife. I hear the militants are ranting. The biggest loser at the end of the day may be the Fubara himself, because I feel there's already an institutional gang up.
Okay.
Therefore, that the police, because if there's any spark of crisis in Rivers State, the institutions who are currently gang up and watching him will simply declare a state of emergency in Rivers. Whereas the ministers are ranting that if they impeach it, there will be crisis, or if the steps are taken, there will be crisis. They must caution themselves on the part of wisdom, on the part of looking at what those who have set this ball in motions have on their sleeve. Okay. I can only but pray for Rivers State, because the next few weeks we're going to be huge for them. It's going to be a torturous experience for the people of Rivers. And I pray that we should have minimum losses, and God should direct their path and let wisdom prevail.
Yesterday, Pandev had a meeting with President Tinubu, and the president urged them to help SIM comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court. What's the import of that statement?
Don't forget that at the inception of this disagreement in Rivers State, the president had invited Fubara, Sim Fubara, Wike, and part of the directive the president gave at that time was that Fubara should represent the state budget to the House of Assembly, recall those commissioners, and what the Supreme Court has simply said is in consonance with what the president said initially. And now, what the president has quietly done is to say he will sit down and be acting as the man who saw tomorrow. He had asked him to represent that budget before the 27 members of the House of Assembly. Whereas the Fubara had complied with a couple of directives by the president by calling back those commissioners. Even when they came back, he stifled their functions such that it's as good as them not being appointed. They had to resign and left. But again, he didn't represent that budget. And by the implication of reinstating the 27 members of the House of Assembly, they have now asked him to do, and again let me tell you, by presentation of that budget to the members of the House of Assembly, it means that Sim Fubara has the appropriating funds with that budget in Rivers State. That in itself is an impeachable offense. Head or tail, Fubara is in for a long term.
Okay, let me pause it there. Let's quickly link up with Barrister President Agbohan, who is the Executive Director, Freedom of Information Council, is joining us from Abuja. Many thanks for joining us on this conversation. What's your take on the latest on the Rivers State crisis, particularly with the judgment of the Supreme Court?
Thank you so much, Duke, for having me. Thank you, the very good people of Edo State. And I also appreciate my brother, my friend in the studio. Basically, I think the first point is that the decision of the Supreme Court is a reawakening of the court as a policy court. The Supreme Court basically is not just a court of law or a court of facts, but also a court to make policy and ensure that there is good governance and ensure that the structures of democracy are respected and protected. And that's the point. The second point is that the Supreme Court decision on the state has an advantage, has a disadvantage. I heard my friend saying that whatever Fubara have done from the beginning to this point where the decision was given is even an offense and all that. But don't forget that the action of an executive governor is presumed to be regular, is presumed to be valid until it is reported. Now that the decision has come, the decision begins to function from the point it came in, not from the beginning of its exercise. So exercising the House of Assembly, a one-man or two-man House of Assembly, to coordinate the activity of Rivers State before now is not really illegal, but it becomes illegal at the point the decision of the Supreme Court was made. That having been said, is that the budget allocation approval for 2024-2025 has already been passed by two-member House of Assembly before the decision of the Supreme Court, which means that you have to represent that same budget to the state. And I think he can make a move, and I heard he has done so many steps towards that direction, and he's being rebuffed. I don't understand what that rebuff means. If a governor is to present a budget, he goes into the House and follow their schedule and present it, and ask the House of Assembly to take an action on it. Don't forget, this Rivers State will not die, this Rivers State will not sink, It's where two titans fight. They say the people suffer. But in politics as a whole, the people don't suffer. The two titans expose themselves. The elephant get themselves bruised, while the people observe and get more information. As an activist over the years, I've worked with access to public records as my area or state, and I know that when there are fracas, when there are broken blocks, that is when the citizen can sneak in and get whatever they want. So the citizens should just be at alert. Civil society networks across the country should beam their light on River State, build their capacity, show them the capacity to be able to evaluate and monitor what's going on. They will be at best for it. As the House of Assembly having a clash with the executive of the state, that has never happened before. There is this secrecy. There is this banquet done underground that has happened in all the states, and it's still happening. But now the party are not going to go on, so everybody will know what's happening. So the day is making the presentation. Civil society group should be there to monitor and have a evaluation template to know what is to be done and what the House of Assembly is to do and what the state governor is to do, and actually what is in the budget, what is being allocated, what is being appropriated, and what has been spent. We're already 1 quarter out of 2025. So the state citizens who own the state will benefit more from this fracas. The stakeholders should not be begged to stop this fight. They should continue to fight for the betterment of the state. The executive cannot, in any state, shrink the legislative arm of government. Like what happened during the Obaseki time, we condemned it. It's not good. The legislative arm of government were elected, they're independent. Just like what is happening in those states now, where the local government is being strengthened. It should never be encouraged. The court should stand up, the citizens should stand up to ensure that this independence thrives. Where there is independence, governance is stronger, development is faster, the citizens are participating and carried along.
Barrister Agbokan, you mentioned a while ago that in this crisis, particularly the judgment of the Supreme Court, there are advantages and there are disadvantages. So who are the people having the advantage and who are those who are the disadvantaged position in this judgment of the Supreme Court?
Thank you so much. I've just highlighted those that are disadvantaged are the elephants, the Fubara, and the whatever. The stakeholders, they are the party leaders. They are at disadvantage because they are in for a long war. Those that are at the advantage are the citizens. The people of River State will benefit. Even every state will benefit. There will be so much to be saved in that River State. You will see that in 2026, there is so much that will come from that budget out of unimplemented projects. So savings will be higher. The citizens will be respected. No governor will go to the market and push down somebody who is selling on the walkway. He will respect you for the first time because your representatives in the house are against him. So the citizens should be celebrating. They should be marking their birthday. They should be doing Thanksgiving in church. That for the first time, these big stakeholders are having issues, and they are the ones that are enjoying.
Let's quickly find out from you. Mr. President has asked SAME to comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court. Yesterday, I think it was Pandef that had a meeting with him, and he asked them to help SAME comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court. And even Simon Espada has also pledged to comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court. Bryce Abraham, reminded us that this was the same thing Mr. President said some time ago when he told SAME, to go back and represent the budget and, go on the path of peace. Like he said, perhaps we are back to that same point again. What's your take on this?
Well, the president advised him earlier. Generally, politicians don't take advice. The step that the president took at that time would have solved this issue from that time. But he didn't. He took some part of the advice. He neglected major parts of that advice. He believed that the courtroom will favor him. Of course, it's that when two people go to courtroom, everybody believes that the courtroom will favor them until you lose, as it has happened now. So basically, the advice the president gave him there is still what is coming to play now. And like I've maintained, whatever sides they want to take, as at that time when the president advised him, they cut off the people. He didn't say, I go and make citizens consultation meetings with the people. Go and have a recall, go and discuss with the constituency, various constituency, and tell them what you are doing, and tell them how your member representing them at the count. They didn't. That was not part of the agenda. You just go and meet the stakeholder, discuss with the stakeholder, agree with the stakeholder, and reconcile. But now that that has failed, the stakeholder themselves have refused to reconcile. The citizens are the one they will reconcile with. The constituency member also, don't forget that they need to play the politics with the citizens also. Lest they will lose their return tickets. Because if people will feel that they didn't represent them well in previous administrations, they have had 2 or 3 primary schools being built, hospitals being renovated, but this time around, those things did not happen. So you have a toil to get a return ticket, irrespective of the party you are coming from. So the citizens are the one that will be reconciled with, as it is now. The Supreme Court have dashed the hopes of stakeholders. They are going back to the citizens. The only issue now is, are the citizens equipped enough to appraise, to be able to put their agenda on the table, what they call citizens' agenda? Do they have the capacity to do that? That is what is the issue. If it was in Edo State that this kind of thing is happening, Edo State have 97.7% in literacy level. We have capacity to evaluate governance measure. I don't know whether that is there in River State, and we pray one day that this kind of an issue and decision will be given to us in Edo State, so that the citizens themselves can run governance and let those who are elected know that the fact that we are not elected doesn't mean that we are bereft of capacity to drive governance in this.
Okay, I'll come back to you in a moment. Mr. Valley, we were talking about the threats from some militants on this matter. Apparently, they've taken sides as far as this issue is concerned. Is that something that should be taken seriously?
First, you understand that people have said that crisis across the country is being fueled by certain forces. Obviously, they may have sympathy for the extant governor of River State, and as such, because they have sympathy, maybe they enjoy patronage from him. Now that they perceive that the steps being taken by the House of Assembly constitute a threat to his continuous stay in government, they feel that such threats we caution the institutions of the legislature to simmer whatever negative effect their actions or their ultimatum to the governor may ordinarily bring. And let me also caution that no state that have resorted to violence will ever enjoy it. Same will be at the losing end if they told that part for which they currently are issuing threats. Same will be at the losing end. Because at that time, the president will bring the full weight of the law with the institutions. The military will come in, and as such, when you make the state ungovernable on the ground that the governments will be impeached, it's a fertile ground for issuing state of emergency. That in itself is that those who want him out will still have enjoyed the decision which they ordinarily had wished for him ordinarily. I feel that threat is not the way out around. And what is wrong? Were they comfortable where only 3-4 persons were leading the House of Assembly? And like my brother Barrister Press Agbok said, nobody should ever be happy where individuals who have been elected by their constituents, notwithstanding the clear provision of section 109(1)G that talks about declaring seat vacant, that constituents who are the elected members to the House of Assembly can no longer enjoy the benefits of representation from that their members, the impact of representation they ordinarily can. I know how many constituencies in Edo State didn't have representation for about 4 years. And as such, if you assess critically the impact of their non-representation on the consequence, you will discover that a great disservice was done during that period. And go look at the quality of legislation they turned out during that time. You will see that the executive will become reckless, the executive will be relaxed, but when there is engagement, giving room for checks and balances, giving room for robust interface, governments of the state will benefit. I feel those issuing threats should backtrack. Let Fubara, if that becomes the issue as it stands now, let him present his budget, put it into perspective. And I agree with my brother when he said that what the government may have done before now is deemed regular until it is reported. But I know the current 24/7 members of the House of Assembly who I see in Rivers, considering the trajectory of where they are coming from, they will find everything wrong in what Fubara is going to do, owing to the fact that beyond just playing their legislative roles, they also feel injured by the actions of the governor over time, more so that they have a paymaster who is currently fueling whatever is happening there. Whereas they may be in Rivers trying to perform their statutory duty, they have a director who is directing the melodrama you will see in the coming days in Rivers State. And that in itself is not good for governance. If we must tell ourselves the bitter truth, I feel the way out is for look for the best way to simmer down the tension, find a way to see, again, painfully, even if Fubara wants everybody to now come on the table of brotherhood to discuss, they will tell him it's because he had lost at the court.
That's why he comes.
That's why he's coming back. They will not take him seriously. If he had keyed into that only branch open, some of us had argued that the decision of the president at that time was stiff and favorable to the Abuja Czar. But again, the president may have viewed it from a wider and broader perspective towards ensuring that he enthrones the required peace in Rivers State. Over a year down the line, the peace which is desired in Rivers is yet to come. If you ask me, is the beginning of a fresh round of crisis. A lot will be seen in the coming days. I can only hope that wisdom will prevail, and those who are issuing threats should calm down and let Fubara toe the path of honor and find a way somehow. Who knows? God works in a mysterious way. Within the legal, constitutional legality, or even revolutionary legality, we may have a way to resolve this crisis in Rivers, and governance will thrive, and the people will be the biggest beneficiary of it all.
All right, Mr. President Agboha, let's quickly talk about some of the contributions or inputs and impacts of the pro-Wike legislators, particularly the influence of Wike on this matter. Because I saw that in part of the judgment by the Supreme Court, the thinking was that Fubara was a bit preemptive in pulling down the legislative house on the grounds that there were some defects, structural defects. But that was actually tacitly done to avert a possible impeachment, which of course never took place. Now, if we say the 27-member pro-Wike legislators have defected, is there any evidence that they have become card-carrying members of their new party? That wasn't established in that case. So I'd like to get thoughts on these.
I think the decamping protocol, was actually established in that case. But even though the court, in its judgment, is saying the procedure wasn't complete. Of course, is that you want to leave a party A to a party B, and you are shown that what the greatest factor is the intention, not the party card. Done an intention, and you also did a media briefing on the status of your exit. I think you have already left. But be that as it may, Supreme Court is a policy court. It's a policy court to the extent that it will not hold that 27 members of the House of Assembly have decamped because they did a press briefing to leave the state with 3 legislators. So it's a best policy drive. It's a policy court, just like holding today that Labour Party is no longer existing, SDP is no longer existing, PDP is no longer existing. Whatever infraction that may have happened within them, the only party that exists now is APC. Because it's a policy court, it will save those parties and ensure they continue to exist. So this judgment of the court affirming the issue of decamping were not really a core part of that judgment, because the court was trying to also mellow down it to ensure that those people continue to exist, so that they won't leave the state for 2 or 3 persons legislative drive and dumping up other constituencies who obviously have sent members to the House of Assembly, and because of whatever action that they do, they are already out of the House. So that's for that. The decision also affirmed that there is a separation of power between arms of government. we have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary. So now, the issue of conduct of local government, which the court also pronounced on, that there was irregularity in the conduct, which has now made the governor to announce again that there will be another conduct of a local government election in the state. And now the legislature, they are calling him to come. They can only call him to come if there are financial issues. So if you are saying head of River State Electoral Commission, come to and meet us in the House of Assembly, you must be able to tell him what you are calling him for. Because the executive is not also your slave. Just as the legislators are not the slave of the executive, judiciary are not the slave of the executive, so also the executive are not the slave of any arm of government. So he can decide to revoke that invitation. Because you didn't tell me what you are calling me for, so that I will bring the necessary documents to come and show you. So the election will go as planned, irrespective of the invitation. Because the invitation never disclosed what they are actually calling him for. And if they are calling him for what is beyond their legislative powers to review him on, he will not honor it. So these arms of government...
Okay, Mr. President, just a moment. Is there a limit
of corruption
to which the legislators can perform their oversight function? Don't they have a responsibility to oversight some of these things you're talking about, particularly with the invitation to the River State Electoral Commission chief, as it were?
Oversight is not an activity it's not a boardroom activity. So if you are oversighting the executive, you are oversighting them specifically as per what the rules of the House have said, what the Constitution have said, what the relevant laws existing have said. So you cannot say you are oversighting the chairman of River State Electoral Commission and you ask him to come and submit the names of his wives. How many children do you have? How many of them are schooling abroad? So those are not your part of the oversight. So the oversight must be laid down. What are you oversighting him for? He has an activity and election to conduct in the next few days. He's very busy. So what are you oversighting him for? He can even write to the House and tell the House, so sir, I'm not free for this period. Can we put the engagement on 29th of March? It is as easy as that. It is an independent arm of government. So there has to be a situation of cooperation where they can work together. You cannot in anywhere, in any democracy, in any world, force your own arm of government on another in the name of oversight. You cannot. Because the executive is powerful because they allocate resources. So if I don't come and submit myself to you won't give me money to do the election. But the legislators are not as powerful as that. So with or without the House of Assembly led by Mewule, the election can go on. He will write to the House that I'm not free. Please give me 3 weeks to come. I'm very busy and I'm sorry. If I come, I'll come and tell you how I spend the money or whatever oversight you want to do, you can do it. But please, I'm very engaged now. The House of the River State Electoral Commission has that power. He has right in the executive to explore. We must protect this democracy from arrogance, from breach of the Constitution, and from violations. Every organs of government, they are all powerful independently. But this executive will be exploiting them, making everybody to feel that we don't even have a 3-arm government. It's 3 arms. The executive must be respected, just that the legislators too must be respected. And for the first time, the River State is now having a legislative arm of government that is very much respected, which is good. But they should not abuse it in the sense that they will not be striking the executive, because the executive too can also begin to hold back their funds, to also stop them, particularly now that the autonomy is not 100%. The autonomy to various houses is not 100%. They give them some and they still send some to the state to hold for projects. I'm getting it now. So every arms of government have to have what we call self-respect. It is you exploring self-respect and mutual cooperation that we can save the democracy of today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Barrister Agboha. I'll come back to you in a moment. Barrister Oviawe. We started by looking at the issue of why is it always difficult for us to start with the negotiating table or go to the negotiating table to resolve the issue. We just go in a merry-go-round, destruction would have. I mean, if you look at the trajectory of the River State crisis, we've seen the House of Assembly destroyed in the name of infrastructural defects, but it's a decoy to prevent, an impeachment, which of course we know hasn't taken place. The 27 members loyal to Wike have become floor members. They've been at home, no salaries, no allowances. I mean, that probably will also have a telling effect on their immediate family members. So this is just the scenario that plays out. But eventually we get to, do you see any, because I know you said a while ago that this is the beginning of another round of war. But the governor is saying that he's willing to make peace, he's willing to go to the discussion table and resolve all of these issues amicably.
For me, it doesn't matter to me if the dramatist personnel have now woken up from their ideological slumber. If it took Fubara to get to the Supreme Court to now realize that there is need for them to sit down on the round table to discuss, I also feel the legislature should also open that arm. If their salaries have been held previously, that can ordinarily be paid. But what you have found over time is that the legislatures are always tied to the apron string of the executive. And that in itself brings huge arrogance and display of excessive powers by the executives. If you have what we now have in Rivers State, where you have the 27 members of the House of Assembly performing proper legislative functions in the most patriotic manner, serving as a watchdog, the executive will not always sit up. They will find a way. They'll find a way to think more of the people of Rivers State. And I agree with you when politicians across board always have this perspective of winner gets all. There is a battle, there's a disagreement, and I quickly come to the table of brotherhood. Let's find a common ground. A little to the right, a little to the left. Let the state pass through and survive in the best manner. They will choose to use the institution of state and resources to fight, chase their enemies to the end. And like he rightly said, the Supreme Court in reaching decisions look beyond just laws, but it's more of a policy court that must continue to protect the institutions of states, i.e. the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Just to say that what I expect at this time, this is where we are. In a state who knows where they are coming from, that believe in the unity and progress of Rivers State, beyond just wanting to impeach the extant governor, seize this opportunity to involve in robust legislation for the good people of Rivers, ensure the growth and development, the appropriation of the monies of Rivers people to the best of their endeavors. Use it as an opportunity to etch your name on the sound of history. And as an executive, let me tell you, it is not easy to bring down a sitting governor. It's not easy. He controls a lot. He has capacity to again, let them not think that it's going to be a tea party. If from the perspective of pains, worries, and political vendetta, they think they can just bring Fubara down, it's not as easy as anybody would think. I want to advise that the best way around this is that they must look more patriotic. They must think of the collective good of the Rivers people and think of strengthening the institutions of the states. The legislature must be strengthened at this time. Concede that there have been crises. And in times of war, all implements can be useful for the purpose of bringing down your enemies. Now that the Supreme Court as a policy court have found a common ground for parties, and Fubara has taken steps to say, I dissolve local government council, heads of local government administration, take charge, Rivers State Electoral Commission, prepare timetable for another election. They should allow the process to run and find a way to resolve this crisis, rather than allowing it, like even analysts are already saying, becomes the beginning of other rounds of crisis. I think a lot, they may still have to go back to court, because if they want to put too much down the throat of Fubara, he will run to the court again. Don't be surprised when you start seeing injunctions, counter injunctions, restraining XYZ from taking further step XYZ. That in itself will further shrink or exacerbate the already exacerbated system we already have in Rivers State. I think that will not be good for the collective good and may stretch the security apparatus of the state in terms of putting that state on red alert, because I see people wielding assaulted rifles, issuing threats, making statements, inflammatory statements, which have the capacity to see Rivers State as a hotbed to the detriment of the state, because the investors will not find that state as viable to go and invest because of this issuance of threats. Rather than see it as an opportunity to support the government they think they believe in, it's also affecting the economic fortune of their state. And I expect the dramatist Pepesinen to see Rivers State as one they must collectively protect and think of the collective good of their own state.
Fantastic. Mr. President, the dimension to this conversation is about the threats from some militants. And then there's also some concerns about the 2027 election. The school of thought is that all we are seeing is a grooming of the state for the ruling party in 2027, with the Minister of FCT, holding sway in Abuja, and with all the issues surrounding him as far as this issue is concerned. What do you make of this?
Politics is politics. It's not just because Fubara is wicked. Whatever that is happening in Rivers State is politics. Whatever that is happening in Edo State is politics. Whatever that is happening in the quiet state of Delta State is politics. So the equation generally is politics, but politics cannot take the place of human beings. So security should rate higher than the political steps of people, so that they won't consume them. Now, Rivers State, former governor, who is not the FCT minister, has an investment in Rivers State. According to him, the present governor did not bring a dime to be made a governor. He spent all the resources, so he has a stake. But that being so, it is also poorly managed. The Rivers experience is overrated. The Rivers betrayal, or the paradox of Rivers State, is oversighted. What is happening in Adamawa is even worse in politics than what is happening in Rivers State. Was Atiku what's his title now? He has a big tattoo in Adamawa State. It was removed. Turaki of Adamawa. It was removed because the caliphate in Adamawa State were broken down to small caliphates, and they appointed some heads, including the younger brother of Nuru Ribadu. So the Adamawa title of Atiku is no longer existing. He has to go and take Turaki of one small village. Are you getting it now? But yeah, nobody talks about it. He moves on. So people should learn how to manage these things. If you have a godson who now thinks that, he has an idea of how he thinks the governor should go, you should not suffocate him. I think that's the morality of people. Because above everything that we are doing now, the God Almighty is the one that moderates up. You were helped. You also helped another person. So you cannot help somebody, and because you have helped the person, you will suffocate him. The reason is because there's a supreme father that is over all of us. Not Tinubu. It's God Almighty, who can, with a snap of the hand, anybody can go. So we should respect that part of life, which I think the Northern appreciates this more than us in the South, with our greed. The same thing that's happening here in Rivers State is not more than what I just said. I just gave you one instance of a state. I can give you instance of Kano. What happened in Kano? Kano governor PA to Kwankwaso, son-in-law to Kwankwaso. He's not being suffocated. He sacked the SSD nominated by Kwankwaso. He sacked him. Nothing happened to him. So you must give him some right. Let him govern the state the way he wants to. Because when you were there, nobody controlled you. You cannot suffocate a person just because the fact that you gave birth to a child, you will use your hand to kill him, and because he's stubborn, allow him. Because that stubbornness can also be something that will bring innovation for our collective survival. I think the way the Rivers State governor is managing it, former Rivers State governor is managing it, is not the best way, because we have a sovereign father, which we all also depend on. So somebody that depends on you, don't remove the oxygen because you have a hand to pull it out. Because Almighty God is watching, and he may also give his final verdict as he pleases him.
Final thoughts on this?
I think I agree to the extent that the best way out, because the summary of all this is that there have been agitation that Wike enjoyed very wonderful support. He didn't spend a dime. And you ask yourself, which money was spent in all this? Is it Wike's personal money? He spent in the enthronement of Fubara as governor? It's Rivers' money at the end of the day. And beyond politics, where has he worked before? Where has he worked? Which private enterprise has he run from which he amassed the wealth he has amassed from the beginning, if not stupendously tapping from the resources of the state? I want to advise that executives should be allowed to do their thing. If we all sit like we have consistently argued over the years and put the state forward and have the fear of God in our heart, which is lacking in the heart of an average politician, I think our state and our country will be a better place for us. Everybody have argued that 2027 is the basis for this crisis you see here and there. It takes only the living to participate in the 2027 elections. Whereas we agitate that we want to seek control because 2027, you must be alive before you can participate in the 2027 elections. And again, unless if you want a free, fair and credible elections in 2027, do you need to kill some persons? Do you need to shrink the system? Why don't you open the olive branch? Bring everybody in so you can have a smooth process. And again, on the other hand, if your plan is to screen the system like we have found in previous elections, do you really need this battle? Wait till that time and get it done. Just to say that it is beyond the 2027 election, it is for the selfish aim and selfish aggrandizement of strong individuals rather than building strong institutions that we enthrone and a greater society. We continue to advocate for a better state, a better country for us. Someday, God may touch our leaders or the ground may open and swallow the wicked, so that those who are ordinarily meanwhile for our country remains alive for the collective good and progress of the country.
All right, thank you very much, Barrister Ibrahim Obiawi. And also want to express our gratitude to Barrister President Taib Bohan, Executive Director of Freedom of Information Council, who joined us from Abuja this morning on the show. Thank you so much, Barrister President.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.